In the heart of Independence Layout, Enugu, where tarred road sparkle under the sun and the streets hummed with gentle life, a new chapter quietly began in one particular home. Inside that home lived Amara, a beautiful, soft-spoken woman in her late 20s. She was the kind of beauty that glowed, not just from flawless skin or fine features, but from the calm dignity in her eyes and the warmth in her heart. Amara had just brought a new life into the world, her first child, Chisom. A tiny miracle with eyes like his father's and a cry that could melt or shake a room depending on the hour. The journey of motherhood had come with aches and stitches, with sleepless nights and swollen feet. But thankfully, Amara wasn't alone. By her side from day one was her mother, Mama Nneka, a cheerful woman with laughter in her eyes and a wisdom as old as the hills. She had come for Omugwo, the postnatal tradition of the Igbos, where mothers help their daughters heal, learn and adjust. And oh, did Mama Nneka do just that? She rose before the birds to sweep the compound, brewed miriogu, a special herbal soup prepared with uziza and uda for nursing mothers in Igbo land, to nourish their body, boost milk production, and generally help the woman recover and regain her strength after childbirth. She also massaged Amarachi's legs with shea butter while humming old lullabies. She rocked Chisom when he cried. She cleaned the house when Amara dozed off mid-feed. And above all, she reminded her daily, "Nne, it's okay not to know everything. You are doing well. Enugu." Her presence wrapped around Amara like a protective shawl, giving her the strength to breastfeed, the confidence to trust her instincts, and the space to bond with her son. Then there was Ikenna, Amara's husband, a tall, soft-spoken engineer with hands that built, but eyes that melted whenever they landed on his wife and child. He worked long hours, but every evening he returned like clockwork, quietly dropping his laptop bag and tiptoeing towards the nursery just to watch his son sleep. When he comes back early, he carries his son and sometimes helps feed him. When he looked at Amara, his gaze still carried the same awe he had had on their wedding day. Together, the three of them and Mama Nneka formed a peaceful rhythm. The freezer was stocked with carefully expressed milk in neat bags and bottles, labeled by date and time. Amara had mastered the art of pumping while Chisom napped, and Chisom in turn was growing strong, his cheeks getting fuller by day. There were nights Amara would sit by the window while her baby nursed and smile quietly to herself. This is what peace feels like, she often thought. After 6 peaceful weeks of warmth, wisdom and quiet strength, just as the rhythm began to feel natural, Mama Nneka had to leave for her home in Oka as she was called up for something very urgent. The morning air was gentle, the sky a calm blue, and even little Chisom coiled softly in Amara's arms, almost as though he knew his grandmother was leaving. Amara hugged her mother tightly at the front gate, trying not to let the tears fall. "You've taught me so much, Mama. I will miss you," she whispered. Mama Nneka smiled and pressed her hands to her daughter's cheeks. "Nemo, motherhood is not about knowing everything. It's about learning, adjusting, and loving. You've done well. You will do even better. And remember, always trust your instincts." She left with a blessing on her lips. "Your journey as a mother has just begun. Be strong, be kind, and protect your child with everything. You will be fine, my daughter," she said. "Call me anytime you need me. Enugu." "Okay. Ijoma Mama," Amara answered with tears in her eyes. She kissed her grandchild one last time and entered the taxi that would take her to the park where she would board the early morning bus back to their village. Nneka and her husband agreed to invite his mom to complete the Omugwo, since it's supposed to be for 3 months and Amara is still recovering and in the learning process as a new mom. A week later, her mother-in-law, Mama Ikenna, arrived from Nsukka. "Amarachi," she called before even entering the house, Where is everybody? Don't tell me you are still sleeping. In our time, we were up before the cock crowed." Amara smiled politely and came out to greet her, carrying baby Chisom. "Mama, good morning. You're welcome." Mama Ikenna's eyes darted immediately to the child in her arms. She didn't reach for him. She didn't smile. Instead, she muttered, "He looks small. Oh. Is he eating enough?" In our days, babies were rolling over in their first month. "Mwam," Mama Ikenna said, eyeing the baby with calculating smile. "I've come to make sure my grandson grows strong and is well taken care of. You young girls of these days don't know how to raise children properly." Amara's smile faltered. Over the next few days, Mama Ikenna made herself right at home and everyone else uncomfortable in the process. At first, she offered to help in cooking soup, sweeping the house and rearranging the living room without asking. When Amara left the baby with her mother-in-law to take a nap or run errands, she woke up to find Chisom sleeping soundly in his grandmother's arms, his tiny chest rising and falling peacefully. "You see," Mama Ikenna said to her smiling, "the boy knows who truly loves him. He sleeps like an angel when I'm here." Amara couldn't help but feel a small surge of hope. Perhaps this arrangement wouldn't be so bad after all, she said to herself. She even managed to run a few errands in town without worrying, confident that her mother-in-law had things under control. Each time she returned, Chisom was quiet, sometimes napping, other times sucking his fist, while Mama Ikenna hummed an old Igbo tune. "Onye mere nwa na-ebe akwa, egbe mere nwa na-ebe akwa, weta ụzịza weta ose." But with every gesture came a backhanded comment. After making pap, she would say, "I just made this pap the real way, not with all these new methods you modern girls like." When Amara complains of back pain, she would respond, "Your back still hot? In our time, we carried firewood with babies on our backs the same day we delivered." From the first day Mama Ikenna stepped into that house in Independence Layout, the breast pump became her favorite target. She would walk by it, sneer at it, and say with mocking astonishment, "So this is how you people feed babies now? Machines. Oh, expressing milk into plastic bags and bottles like bottled water. To fiakwa." Amara bit her tongue more times than she could count. Even Ikenna tried to joke about it. "Mama is just being old school," he would say. "She means well." But it wasn't just about being old school. It was judgment in disguise. She criticized the curtains. "These curtains are too soft though. Are you sure they will even last? Just wasting money unnecessarily." She mocked the rocking chair. "This one oyibo laziness. Adalihu adalazu." She inspected the freezer. "All this milk. Why? Can't you just feed the child directly?" Even when Amara was trying to catch a few hours of sleep after a long night with Chisom, Mama Ikenna would knock on her door and say, "You are resting again? During our time, rest was for old people." Amara found herself walking on eggshells in her home. Every feeding became a performance. Every nap a stolen secret. Every kind gesture was met with a condescending remark. And yet, through it all, Mama Ikenna kept insisting, "I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to help." Amara would chuckle nervously, trying not to engage. But inside, she was slowly breaking. Because while the comments were annoying, they were the least of her worries. Something else, something far more disturbing, had begun. Chisom began to cry more often, especially when left alone with his grandmother. When Amara goes to deliver goods to her clients, or when she goes to run some errands, she will come back to meet him crying and ask, "Mama, Chisom origoni, this one is crying this way." Mama Ikenna would wave it off. "I've not fed him yet, but these children cry every time now. It strengthens their lungs. You worry too much." What worried her more was that most times Mama would say she hasn't fed Chisom, but her express milk in the fridge keeps reducing. The last time, she noticed 2 bottles were gone. Amara had been diligent, expressing milk daily, labeling each bag and bottle with dates, storing them in neat rows. Each ounce of milk was expressed with love, labor, and sacrifice. But suddenly, Without explanation, the bags seemed fewer. One morning, she opened the freezer and froze in place. Yesterday, there were 6 bags. This morning, only 3. She didn't want to overthink it. Maybe she miscounted. She brushed it off. But the next day, it happened again. This time, 2 bags were partially opened, sealed again carelessly. Another was completely gone. She blinked in disbelief. Maybe Ikenna has used some. But for what? I will ask him later if he fed the baby. Could milk evaporate? She asked herself jokingly. But her stomach twisted in unease. It wasn't just the milk. Baby Chisom was changing too. He cried more often. Not the usual fussiness of newborn, but deep painful wails. His soft cheeks, once full, are beginning to look sunken. His onesies are now loose around the arms. Even Ikenna noticed. Nne, are you sure he's eating enough? It seems he doesn't finish his bottle anymore, he said one night. Baby, I was even going to ask you, did you feed Chisom today? No, I didn't. Why do you ask? I noticed some bottles are missing and 2 bags weren't sealed properly. I didn't. I came back from work not quite long now, and I just finished eating. And even when I do, I always seal them back properly. Have you asked Mama? Yes, Mama said she didn't feed him. He came. I've been noticing that my breast milk is reducing from the fridge really fast, and Chisom seemed not to be getting enough. Are you sure? He asked. You might even be mistaken, or maybe you miscalculated. Ikenna replied reassuringly. No, my love, I'm certain. There were 6 bottles of breast milk in the fridge earlier. Now it's 4. Something isn't adding up. Calm down, Joe. Are you sure you counted correctly? Moreover, remember your aim of expressing it is to feed the baby when you are busy or tired. And Mama has been helping out with Chisom. Are you sure she didn't feed him earlier? She said she didn't, Amara replied. I breastfed him myself when I came back and he was obviously hungry. Maybe Mama fed him more. You know she can be somehow sometimes. Moreover, you know old age comes with forgetfulness too now. He chuckled. Ikenna, this is not funny. This is not funny. I know what I'm saying. You always know what you're saying now, Ikenna said sharply. Once you've made up your mind about something like this, you can be very, very stubborn about it. Only you know what you're thinking, or only you know what you're thinking. Because there is no other baby in this house. It's just you, me and my mother, who came recently to help out with the baby in this house. Or are you insinuating my mother did something with your milk? I never said so. All I'm saying is that my milk is always missing from the fridge these days. Amara snapped back angrily. I know my mom can be difficult and annoying sometimes, but she certainly cannot do anything with your breast milk. Moreover, Chisom is her grandson now, and that's his food. Haba. Amara knew her schedule. She hadn't changed his portions or feeding routine. Something was wrong. Something wasn't right. She started keeping a journal, writing down how many bags or bottles she expressed each day, how many she stored, and how many she used. Day by day, the numbers didn't add up. A bag missing there, a bottle missing here, another half used there. Meanwhile, Mama Ikenna continued her passive remarks. One would think with all this you're pumping, the baby would be fatter, she muttered while staring at sea. Back in the days, our breasts were the feeding bottle. You young women just like shortcuts. But the tone wasn't just judgmental anymore. It was mocking. And then came the most confusing moment of all. One afternoon, Amara came into the living room and found Mama Ikenna sipping tea from her favorite mug. Not unusual, until she caught a faint smell. Warm, sweet, familiar smell. Her eyes drifted to the empty bottle on the table, the one she had set aside for Chisom's evening meal. A chill ran down her spine. Was it possible? No, it couldn't be. But doubt had already taken root. Every time Mama Ikenna was alone in the kitchen, Amara listened more carefully. Every time she fed the baby, she watched his reaction, and each time she grew more convinced. Someone was drinking her expressed milk. Someone was drinking her breast milk. Not using it for the baby. Not reheating it for bottle feeds. Someone was drinking it. The thought was maddening, but Amara was a woman raised with wisdom. She didn't want to accuse without proof. She didn't want to create tension in her home. But as the milk vanished, as her baby's weight dropped, as the freezer thinned and Chisom cried deeper, She knew something had to be done. It was no longer about discomfort, it was about survival. Her baby was slowly starving. Amara stood in the kitchen, gently swaying baby Chisom in her arms. He was frozen again, his cries sharp, restless. He hadn't been sleeping well. His feeding sessions often ended in frustration, and each time she looked into his tired little eyes, she felt a deeper ache in her chest. Just a few weeks ago, he had been vibrant, his cheeks full, his little legs kicking with energy. Now he looked like he was slowly fading away. Amara sighed and reached for the bottle she had just warmed. Another bag of expressed milk gone. She mentally tallied the number she had pumped that morning. It didn't make sense. The math never added up. Something wasn't right. But that afternoon, her suspicion deepened. She was just stepping in when she heard hushed voices coming from the shared fence by the side of the house. It was Mama Ikenna, chatting with Mama Ifoma, the nosy neighbor from the next compound. She says she's pumping and pumping, Mama Ikenna was saying, her voice thick with contempt. But the baby is always crying and restless. In our time, we would sit down and feed the child from our breast until he was full, not use machines and chase business and money. The two women chuckled. Then came the dagger. If she was producing enough milk like a real woman, that boy wouldn't be wailing every hour. Lazy girls these days just want to lie down and rest while the machines do the work. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She stepped back quietly, blinking against the hot sting of tears. Lazy? She was barely sleeping. Her back ached. Her nipples were raw from pumping and breastfeeding. She hadn't had a full meal in days, and now she was being mocked for doing her best. That evening, her heart weighed heavy as she bathed Chisom.